Hey y'all, welcome to another mock talk. Running out of daylight, so hopefully I can get this in one take. We'll see. But I've been talking about since the beginning of the year, making each day your masterpiece. And also I've talked about John Wooden's pyramid of success, and the pinnacle of that pyramid is competitive greatness, or being at your best when your best is needed, enjoying the thrill of a tough battle. And in order to do that, in order to be competitively great, and then even in order to make each day your masterpiece, you got to have this block that I'm going to talk about today, and that's alertness. And John Wooden defined alertness as constantly observing, being open-minded, always looking to improve, and being eager to learn. In other words, being a student of the game and being a student of life. And if you do those things and you're alert, then you have a better chance of being successful or achieving excellence, as I've talked about, or being at your best when your best is needed. So we got to be alert. And I'm going to share with you 5 stories from my life where alertness has paid off. And again, I'm just sharing from my heart, not trying to brag on myself. I am what I am by the grace of God, and I'm thankful for the wisdom He's given me throughout the years, and just from studying His Word and learning His Word and seeking wisdom that He's allowed me to apply it. And the first one comes from a football game when our guys that are getting ready to graduate were 8th graders, and they just finished a phenomenal season this year, and then phenomenal season the last couple years. I mean, 3 years ago we went to the state championship. Last year we were semifinalists, and again semifinalists again. And so these guys really accomplished some great things. And as 7th graders, some parents went to our athletic director and said, hey, don't expect much from these guys. They're not very talented. They're probably not going to win very many games. And sure enough, as 7th graders, they lost one game by 4 points, and it was the second game of the season, and even had a chance to win that one. And then as 8th graders, they went undefeated. And our last game was against Bernie Voss, and Bernie Voss hadn't lost a game in 2 years. And it was quite the matchup. Went back and forth. Tough game. They completed a long pass to take the lead late in the game, and we drove down, and we had one other opportunity, and we're going into the end zone where they had a bunch of high school kids yelling at our guys throughout the game, and I called a timeout, and thankfully he was alert, and we've been running slants all game. And I said, hey, I drew it up. I said, we never run this. We're going to run a slant corner on this play. And sure enough, Cody Stover hit Henry Bruton, and we scored the game-winning touchdown, and then Nolan White sealed it with an interception. And it was all because of alertness and constantly observing. We'd burn them on slants all game long, and I knew they were going to be looking for it down there in the end zone. I was like, hey, we're going to hit a slant corner here, and we'd never worked on it, and the guys completed it, and it was awesome. Another story was a couple years ago. I ran my first half marathon, and it was at College Station, and we finished in Kyle Field at A&M's field, and it was a great experience. And as I was running this, my strategy throughout is I kept saying, I'm going to try to catch that person in front of me. I'm going to try to catch that person in front of me. And I kept doing that. And sure enough, about mile marker 10, I'm sitting there running, and there was another guy in front of me. And I'm sitting there running. I'm like, okay, I'm going to catch this guy and catch this guy. And sure enough, when I catch up to him, he turns and goes off to the bathroom, to one of the porta potties. But I remembered the guy and finished the race and got done. And they're sitting there calling out, age group and how people finished. And I was like, I'm going to listen and see how I did, if I made, who knows, maybe I got some. And they said 3rd place, and they said some guy, and they said 2nd place, and then they said 1st place. And they called my name, and I won for my age group. And this guy comes up to me as I'm checking out my time, and he's like, how'd you finish before me? And, what was your time and all this kind of stuff? And I was like, I remember this guy and being alert and knowing who he was. And I was like, man, I remember passing that guy at mile marker 10. The other 3 stories I'm going to share with you are more along the lines of life and just being alert in a situation of life. Just last week, I went to go cash some checks from Christmas gifts that my kids and I had received. And I pulled out on the road, and the day before I watched this movie, and it was about the Jews and the Holocaust. And just watching them, and I saw a scene where somebody had been shot and they crumpled up on the ground. And I pull out on the road by my place, and I look down the road, and there's a guy crumpled down on the road, and it looked just like a scene from the movie. And I was like, what the heck? And I drove down there real quick, see backpack in the middle of the road, and rolled on my window. I'm like, you okay? You okay? And I don't even know if the guy's alive at first. And I get out and I go over, and some people had driven by, and he's bleeding on his cheek. I'm like, you okay? And he's like, yeah, I fell down, and I'm pretty sure he was a Vietnam vet. Anyway, long story short, I was able to, one of his neighbors came by, drove by, saw him, was able to get him the help that he needed and that kind of thing. And, again, just being alert. And another story was years ago, driving through San Marcos. It was raining. It was raining pretty hard, going down I-35. And we see this Ford Expedition go flying off the road, off the interstate and onto the frontage road, and flip over and roll a number of times. I mean, me and my buddies just stop and run out. And I go and, the car's upside down. And there's this lady laying inside. And I got her secure, and I just, held her with her back and neck straight until EMS was getting there, and was able to talk to her and, encourage her and be with her and, help her remain calm until the proper authorities were there to help out. And again, it was just me and my friends being alert, seeing the situation and going and doing something about it. And then the last one was not this past summer, but the summer before. It was 4th of July. And I was throwing a football with my kids in the river. And my one son threw a football, and it went through my other son's hands and hit this lady in the face. Man, I was mad. I was hot. I was like, that's it. We're done playing. I felt so bad. Made him apologize. The lady was fine. Didn't hit her that hard, but still, I was frustrated with him and that he threw the ball that hard. And so I was like, that's it. We're done. Go do something else. Let's just have fun, but we're not doing this anymore. So I walk over and I get over to this rock, and I'm trying to get out of the water, and I slip and I fall. And I fall underwater, and I hit my head on a rock, and I come up, and I'm bleeding. And I say to there's a couple people, sorry it's cold if this camera's shaking. It's gotten really chilly. I just got done with a run too, so I'm a little bit colder than usual. But I say to these people, am I bleeding? They're like, oh yeah. And so I had to think on my feet real quick. And I'm like, okay, I can't walk across the river because I'm going to be bleeding in a river, and I don't have any path or diseases or anything that I know of. But other people might be freaking out if they see that. There's a ton of people at the river. And I turn around to my son, and he sees me, and I'm like, Eli, we got to go. Let's go. And he's like, what happened? And all this kind of stuff. And so we had to walk up and around this bridge and then back, and then I had to find my other two kids. And as soon as I get to them, I was like, get your stuff. We got to go. My head is just gushing blood. But I just told myself, I was like, dude, I got to maintain my cool. I got to maintain my composure. I've got to be cool, calm, and collected for my kids. And I had to be alert of the situation, my surroundings, what was going around, getting the best weight of our stuff. And then we had to walk a long way to our car, and I had to drive myself to the emergency room, with my kids in my car. And I just kept telling myself, I have to remain calm for my kids. My daughter, she was awesome. She was leading my kids, but she was kind of freaking out a little bit. I could tell. And I just said, hey, got to keep it cool. And we were able to get through the situation. And all those situations were about being alert, constantly observing, constantly improving, constantly being eager to learn, and it all comes back to our training. I've told the story about Perfect Storm a number of times. I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but I do know that the people that survived that had to jump out of the helicopter, it wasn't the best swimmer that survived. It was the people that relied on their training. So focus on your training. Be alert. Be a student of the game. Be a student of life. And you never know what those situations are going to come, where you have the opportunity to make each day your masterpiece, and maybe make a great play in a game, or maybe be there to help somebody else in their time of need, and encouraging them and helping them and remaining calm and being alert. And always remember that God's grace is sufficient. Thanks for listening.